Hey there, it's Lián. I am the host of IllumināDID. We are a DID system that is working to dispel the stigma surrounding the disorder and to raise awareness for the types of trauma that cause the disorder and let survivors know they are not alone. Generally goals. Today's video is definitely a serious one. We are going to talk about coming to terms with RAMCOA. We got notes to make sure we stay on track. But so this video is going to be very triggering. We will put a trigger warning in the beginning before I start this whole thing, and there will be trigger warnings throughout, so keep those in mind as you watch and stay safe. Alrighty, let's get into it. Trigger warning for this video. RAMCOA serves as a form of trauma rooted in the implementation of covert destabilization triggers. If there's any suspicion that you may have experienced RAMCOA, please exercise caution. We recommend having a trusted individual, such as a therapist or primary support system, review this material first and provide you with pertinent details with a protective buffer. Prioritize your safety at all times. Our intention is to have this information offer assistance to those who are in need. Okay, so let's just touch on a brief overview of what RAMCOA is. We have already made a video about what is RAMCOA, which will show you the thumbnail of there, and you can find it in the bio or link, whatever. RAMCOA stands for Ritual Abuse, Mind Control, Organized Abuse. It is an umbrella term that refers to trauma caused with intention to create a destabilized mind that can be manipulated through trauma triggers. RAMCOA does have limited available online resources, which is why we do make the videos we do, so that if you are a survivor or helping a survivor, you can find some form of resources here. RAMCOA is a dangerous and heinous form of abuse, and it does need awareness raised because it was consigned to conspiracy theory in the 70s, and it has not recovered since. So we make these videos to raise awareness around that. What if I think I am a RAMCOA survivor? If you suspect that there is RAMCOA in your past, I am begging you, just stop digging. Stop right now. Wait, hear me out. It is very unsafe for you to dig for trauma in general. It is extremely unsafe for RAMCOA survivors to dig for trauma, especially without any kind of a support network. Flashbacks often leave hints of the trauma that's being remembered. If your flashbacks are giving you RAMCOA vibes, you must learn grounding or some form of centering technique, stat, because that will help you get through a lot of these flashbacks. We use specifically bilateral tapping like that, or we do a thing where we will I hit the microphone, or we'll rub our chest and tap, pat, rub, pat. That kind of helps ground us. Also, green noise, white noise, and brown noise can help depending on the trigger and what mood we're in, so we find those helpful as well. When it comes to RAMCOA, let the memories come naturally. They will come in their own. They will come as your system feels more comfortable letting you know what happened. Don't try to force those doors open. Don't go prying into closets or doorways or trap doors inside of your system if you're not ready to deal with that. And I speak from personal experience when I say that. Don't open the trap door. Don't do it. Leave it be. A protector will let you know when it's ready. Have your memories already cracked about it, meaning you recognize this is definitely RAMCOA? Okay, breathe. Deep breath. In, out. We are going to seek out a support network. We're going to go online. We're going to find people who have survived the same thing. Oftentimes, survivors will mention that we are RAMCOA survivors either in our bios or in some form of introduction. If we are open about the trauma that if we as a survivor are open about the trauma we survived, it will be obvious in our profiles because we are trying to find others who have gone through the same thing to either help or find camaraderie with. Seek support networks, you need them as well. Start building your grounding skills and widening that window of tolerance because you will need those things to get through the processing of this sort of trauma. It's rough, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. This section, we did want to share our story. We pre-wrote it for the sake of triggers and making it easier to read. It's Lián, the host. Obviously, I don't think I already said that, but if I haven't, hello. I am going to be reading a lot of this for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of not to trigger on ourselves trying to think of the words on our own. So if we are reading and it looks as that, we have the story written so we can actually say the words without being too triggered by them. So without further ado, we're going to tell you what happened. If you want to skip this part of the video, you are more than welcome to, obviously, autonomy, it's all you. If you want to skip to the next section, the timer marker will be right here. And so without further ado, I'll give you time to skip to that. And if you are still here now, I will start telling you what happened to us. Trigger warning, we will be discussing things that occurred to us in minor detail, but we encourage you to skip to the marker previously mentioned if you aren't in a safe place to hear someone else's story. Our RAMCOA begins around the age of 5 through a church-sanctioned volunteer daycare carried out at a private residence, which the church also approved. There were permission slips involved, and they were signed and approved initially by parent, guardian, people, so this was all above board. The first 3 years were daily forms of abuse. That would be the ages of 5 to 8. We were dropped off at the church, we would board this little van or bus and be taken to a parishioner's house. First hour or two, maybe longer, was normal. You know, kids, Christian shows, Bible studies. We had to unlearn a lot of our Bible study because the Catholics definitely got it wrong. And other kid-friendly activities like crafts. Snack time was the beginning of the bad. Food was always drugged, but only after you had been in the daycare for at least a year. First, prior to being drugged, we just assumed the kids were sleepier than we were, and not all of us were taken away at the time, so we just assumed it was a sleepiness thing. Oh, go take a nap somewhere else. After the second year, the torture started, and first through CSA, and then small forms of invisible pain, such as like needles, switches, as in like whips, through clothing, and other forms of assault that just don't leave bruises or marks, as well as eating food that had gone off to the point of being moldy and or being locked in a cage for the duration of the day, the rest of the day, for not eating said bad food. Disclosure to adults would mean damnation, meaning like, honest to God, you're sending those adults to hell, no matter what. Being that our trauma was based off of already deserving to be punished, we didn't want that to extend to people around us, or that pain to people around us, so we just kept quiet. The next 4 years are more extreme forms of torture, between 9 and 12. We're still working through the trauma around this time in therapy, along with the rest, but we can speak a little bit on it. This was the time frame we were subjected to waterboarding, trafficking, and CSA, being rented to adults who had clearly paid for a service, and sensory deprivation. We were not approved for sleep deprivation, thanks to our parents not signing the overnight permission slip forms required for that. So that was lucky, in a sense, or God, depending on how you look at it. The last 5 years, ages 13 through 17 of RAMCOA, were a bit more unstable, and we suspect that parental intervention, though unintentional, like accidental completely, did contribute to our ejection from the system, thankfully. We had reached female maturity. You get what I'm saying. And so the SA increased tenfold. By this time, our participation in daycare was as a youth minister, according to what they told the parents. We had a pregnancy, which was forcibly terminated at the age of 16 by our abusers in a horrific manner. The memory of that is one of the worst, and so causes us extreme distress. That distress contributed to the sudden inability to be controlled or triggered by our abusers. At the same time, our parents started putting us into trauma therapy through the military, which disrupted a lot of the triggers that were already in place. 2 years after the beginning of in therapy, out therapy, in therapy cycles, we were told not to return to the daycare, and they said goodbye. Post-primary trauma, but before the walls of the trauma had cracked, we just kind of lived with an insane amount of emotional and mental pain. No idea why we felt the way we did, and we had no idea why we couldn't remember things, or why we were making terrible life decisions. And then we got our DID diagnosis, and that truly, honestly, did help save our life. Like, we would not have any understanding what was going on. Tristan is nearby. He is kind of co-conscious because I was reading a lot of triggering stuff, but we're good now. We're going to move forward in the video. So, what is it like as a RAMCOA survivor living away from the trauma? It is difficult to come to terms with, especially because most of the time the trauma is very severe. It's very, what the hell, you know, so you're trying to comprehend that that's even something someone could do to another person, and that's awful. It's hard to learn about due to the lack of general info that's around, and it's also hard to find survivors locally because you don't go around asking people, oh, what did you survive? Online it's easier. I have made many friends who have survived RAMCOA online because of, you know, Twitter or Instagram, mostly Twitter to be honest with you, and then we'll branch off onto people's Instagrams or whatever. We've exchanged phone numbers with a few people. We were friends with a lot of the people we've met online because we bonded through a lot of the trauma things we went through, and then we found out that they're a cool person, so why not stay friends? It is hard to, we do want to have a section on the Valkyrie project that we're working on to connect survivors, but working on it, it's hard. We have the idea ourselves, so keeping track of things. We're working on it. We're trying our best. We are. Post-primary trauma, it is very hard to feel safe. And there will be times where the people around you, your support system, will feel like the abusers and that they're the bad guys. So that's something to be really aware of as a RAMCOA survivor. The bad guys in your head are not always the bad guys in your life. You just gotta remember that. Here are things that you need to understand as a survivor. This was never and will never be your fault. Healing takes time. You can't rush the process of healing because the amount of time it took to inflict the trauma, take the time and double it to heal. It takes time to heal. Do not expect results right away, but also don't give up. As much as your brain might tell you you do need support. Find friends. Tell your family something. You need to reach out and find somebody, whether that's just one random online friend or a bunch of people close to you. You need support to heal this and get through it. You need to know that there are people you can trust. Once again, you did not deserve this. You did not deserve this. You did not deserve this. None of this was your fault because you were a child. You were a child that should have been protected. None of this is your fault. None of it will ever be your fault. You are also not, unfortunately, the only one. Others have gone through similar pain. Others have survived similar pain. Others have healed from similar pain, and you can too. It is not hopeless. Ways you can help survivors. So you know someone with RAMCOA trauma, or you're a therapist, or you're a family member trying to help someone who has survived RAMCOA. What do you need to do? What things can you do to help them? First of all, believe their story. Too long do survivors go without their story being believed. They just get belittled or consigned to conspiracy or, oh, that's insane. There's no way that could have happened. Believe your survivor friend's story or family member. Believe the survivor. Believe them. Believe that they're telling you what happened to them. Because if they've opened up to tell you this, that means they trust you on a level greater than the random person on the street. You have to understand the level of fear and panic behind just trying to tell our story. If they've told you their story, please, I beg you to believe them. Let your friends, your survivor friends know, or your survivor relative know, they are safe to be who they are. Sometimes we're gonna have bad days because of trauma. Sometimes you're gonna be the bad guy. Let them know you're still there. Let them know you are still safe. Support them how you can. If they're struggling with suicidal feelings, let them know you're there for them. If they're struggling with peopling, don't make them people. Do a web call. If they're struggling to eat, help feed them something. Support them any way that you can. Bad things happen in life. Bad things happen to a lot of people. RAMCOA happens to more people than you think. You are not alone as a survivor, and you are not alone in that struggle. I do want you to understand that you are strong and you survived. And I see you. I hear your story. I want to help you. I want you to know you are not alone. Evil does exist in the world. You suffered that and you survived. As a survivor to another survivor, you can heal, you can make it out of the pain, and you can learn to live again, I promise. Don't give up that hope. You will make it through. You are loved, you are respected, and you are safe here with me. I love you, I respect you, and I hope you know that you can heal from things. We love you so much. Be safe.